Then he just looked at the waitress and said, "I'd have preferred the cake on the table rather than the floor."
Yeah, well, that's what you get when you hire cheap staff. Yeah. She probably didn't have any thumbs. There you are. Um, Rishi Sunak is either the biggest fool on earth or is a pure genius, is going to be my headline for today.
Mm.
Let's get certain things out into the open here.
Mm.
In our group that we have with a few other people,
Mm.
you put a post in where somebody suggested that the UK imminently is going to go to war, probably with Russia, and so Sunak is getting out of the way so as not to be the prime minister of a war nation, so it can be blamed on him, of course, you know.
Yeah.
But bolstering that sort of agenda, that sort of theory, is David Cameron a couple of weeks ago saying that he doesn't see why Ukraine can't use British arms to hit deep into Russia. And on in his part, Blinken in the United States is lobbying exactly for this, for the American weapons to be used to go deep in the heart of Russia.
Yeah.
This along with hijacking funds and accounts, properties of Russia, and wanting to convert them into cash to send them to Ukraine to pay for their conflict. So you can see that the West is poking the bear quite a bit recently. But I tend to look at it more of an internal thing in the UK rather than external thing with creating fights with external countries. So one of the general elections of the elections that half the planet will decide this year is the UK election, just announced to be held on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
This Rishi Sunak yesterday in the pouring rain, he declared this in front of 10 Downing Street. But this declaring this at this time is a bit of a double-edged sword, because on one hand, he wasn't even the elected prime minister of the people. You know, he was. I think he was the fourth in a series of prime ministers.
Yeah.
3 that weren't elected and 1 that was, and found to be incompetent and a liar. There's a surprise.
Wow.
So, what is he going to do? He's going to leave behind him a terrible economy. The UK government is trying to say that the economy is better than in Germany, it's better than in the US, but that isn't a very high bar because Germany's in a depression. You know, Germany's in a depression. I think the same can be said for the US. So you just need to look at your own, sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Sort your own shit out before you start trying to compare yourself to others who are deeper in the doo-doo than what you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So late reports are saying that inflation is down. It might be this month, but in general, the middle and lower classes are not finding it that way. If you look at if the prices are still going to be higher than they were 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just that the inflation is not sending the prices higher still at the same rate than what they were rising, but they're still going up. So,
Yeah.
Immigration, in spite of Rwanda, is still rife, and possibly worse because of the island connection. Ireland is going to be expulsing their EU immigrants to the north, and then the north they can come across on the ferry to Liverpool, and be part of join the throngs that are already here in mainland UK. And scandals galore are beginning to reappear. The UK government, what with the PPI mismanagement, the scandal of buying an awful lot of security equipment they bought too much. They bought 5 years worth of gowns and masks and things, but the thing is they've only got a shelf life of 2. So what are you going to do what are you going to do with the rest?
Well,
the post office debacle is with us. And they're having this little play around with this. I don't know what you'd call it. A discussion about what about the post office and the postmasters and all this. And now, just recently, the blood transfusion problems. From from a long time ago. However, it's fallen onto Sunak's lap. It's come out during his gestation, I suppose you'd call it, his tenure. Now, on the other hand, and of course, don't forget his lack of personality, Sunak's personality. If he was a piece of paper, for sure, even though he's dark-skinned, he'd be just a plain, blank, white sheet of paper with absolutely nothing on it.
It's
and also the non-dom income tax state of his missus. Now, if the government has its way and they're going to change the non-dom tax situation, it could well be that he's given up a prime minister. And him and his missus going to skip off into the sunset, go to another country where their riches will not be pilfered with by the inland revenue. That'd be the most logic, I suppose. But on the other hand, what have we got to look forward to? So Starmer, believe it or not, has even less personality as Sunak. I remember an insult that Nigel Farage gave to a guy in the EU. I forgot his name. I'm sure you'll remember it. Where he likened him to a damp rag, a personality of a damp rag. And he said he looked like a low-grade bank clerk. And Starmer, he's the same. It's the same. He just hasn't got even his voice irritates me. He's got no diction. He's got no tone in his voice. I'm sure he's AI.
Never thought of that before.
His front bench is already tangled with legal battles because of a second house status. Also, Starmer has been investigated for receiving, once again, illegal campaign donations. This is even before he gets in office. Labour hasn't really explained their policies. They've just said, we will be better. We need a change. We will be better. We need a change. What does better look like, and what does change look like? Starmer is shifting 180 degrees on some ideas he floated out there, and he's gone back on his word. So, should we be feared of more of the same? Is it going to end up being more of the same? I say more of the same because you know how I feel about British politicians in general. They just do the same stuff and just put a different twist on it, and but it's the same. It's the same anyway.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Well,
Having an early election will put the pressure on the smaller parties, of course.
mm,
Uh, Looking for a seat in Parliament, meaning they'll have to stump up cash from somewhere
mm,
to pay for the election campaigns sooner rather than later.
yeah.
Everybody was thinking it might be in November, December time,
Mm,
the election. In July the 4th, it's, they're going to have to find the same amount of money now rather than then.
well, this could be. I've got a view about this. Yeah. Okay.
People in the UK, just let me finish this
Yeah.
train of thought. Otherwise,
Yeah.
people in the UK are saying that it can't be worse than it is now. Really? Really? And worse, last night the MPs, Conservative MPs, want to delay the election until the end of the
Yeah.
year. They're going to try and vote Sunak out
Yeah.
with a vote of no confidence. Why do you think that is? It's because there's still 7 months' salary as an MP in the works. They're not going to change the world in 7 months.
No.
They just want to chow down on the public purse
Prove
because
recent.
they know
Yeah.
that an election now
Mm,
that they're going to be out of a job. They're going to get their UB40s pretty
yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
Right now, you can go. Let's get
Yeah.
to
No.
it
No.
now.
No. 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 I mean, I'm not chomping
There's
at the
a,
bit.
there's
I
a
mean,
lot.
yeah.
There's a lot for you to comment on there.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to start off with this thing about politicians. Again, I keep saying, go back to the Greeks, which is, if you like, the birthplace of democracy, and politicians there, exactly the same. They don't do it for the love of the people. Yeah.
No.
The Romans didn't, okay, whatever you might call democracy. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about Sunak's position that, yeah, we didn't vote for him. I mean, the British system, for anyone that doesn't know, we don't vote directly for our leader. We vote for the party, and the party they represent, whichever party they represent gets the most votes. Hey, they get the job.
That's for the MPs. The leader of the party,
Yeah,
which is known before the
yeah,
election,
yeah.
is
That's the
known by
point.
the people.
Yeah, that's the point I'm going to make in a minute. Rishi Sunak appeared from nowhere, literally
That's
almost
right.
nowhere.
That's
Okay,
right.
he was about the minister and everything else, but yeah, we had there were several goes at it by the Conservative Party to get the right leader after Boris Johnson ate a bit of cake, which on the scale of things, yeah, was minor. We're having a go. We're talking about Iran and other places not being totally democratic. Hey, man, yeah, as you said, let's look at our own back garden on a lot of things first. Which again was where the cake was eaten, but yeah, possibly set up by Rishi Sunak and getting caught as well, which is even more interesting. Yeah. Now, where is all this heading? Rishi Sunak, I think, has almost acted. He's certainly wrong-footed his politicians who are out to stab him in the back, admittedly. Yeah, as the old saying goes. Yeah, as the old saying goes. When I heard an interview on the radio years ago, and I think I said this before, when they were talking to, I can't remember, it was one politician, and he said, "Do you ever worry about the opposition?" He said, "No, I can see where they are. It's the people behind me, the benches behind me. I worry about. Yeah, they've got something to gain by my demise, from my demise." And even politicians on the same side. What we have to remember, is, do you go into politics to serve? As I said the other week, I do think sometimes there's the banana syndrome comes in. They start off green and straight and end up bent and yellow. And I would say possibly that's a majority. You might disagree with me there, Steve. I think there's a lot of people going to do noble things and end up just like anyone else because you hit the system and you ain't going to change it. So I'm here now. I might as well have it as well. Yeah, that's human nature, unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, we've opted out of that by living in another country that we don't really yeah, you have to interact with if we choose not to. Yeah, it's now as to Rishi Sunak, yes, Mr. Lack of personality, Starmer even worse. I cannot believe that Starmer was ever a lawyer, even. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say the thought just came into my head that includes hell. Yeah, yeah. Are there any lawyers in heaven? Yeah. But he's a they're the same people. Let's be honest about it. Exactly the same people. And let's think about our past prime ministers counting backwards. We had Sunak. Before that, we had Cameron.
Truss. No, Liz Truss.
We had Truss. Sorry, Truss. Okay, for 5 minutes. She was there for 5 minutes. Then we had Theresa May. Yeah. Okay. Not real personality either. Before that, we had Cameron.
No, Johnson.
Johnson, yes. So Johnson had a lot of character and personality. Man of the people, really. Okay, he was a lying, cheating, upfront, whatever. But we knew that. So he was actually quite honest and upfront about who he was. Yeah. He did a few things that I didn't like over foreign policy. Did somebody else's bidding, I always felt. But hang on.
But it's important to note there that Boris Johnson, he was elected simply because Nigel Farage withdrew all the UKIP candidates from constituencies that were closely run.
Yeah.
And that allowed Boris Johnson to
we got a big majority.
Probably because Boris Johnson lied, because he said, I will sort this thing about Brexit out, which of course still hasn't been done properly.
Well, I always knew that was going to be problematical. I'm going to say something controversial. Overall, I think Boris Johnson did a good job with it. Not a perfect job, don't get me wrong. He did what he could. He was up against, you're not just, as you call it, the invisible government. What do you call it? The shadow government. Yeah?
Shadow government. Yeah.
He was up against that. Boris Johnson is still outside what we would consider the establishment to a point. Yeah? He plays it every which way. Yeah? But I think he was up against something. He wanted to do it. I mean, remember the article he released later, where he wrote good reasons to stay in the European Union and good reasons to leave. So he's a guy who would think things through. I always thought that was good of him, to explain where he was. Yeah, he wasn't sitting on the fence. He knew he's somebody that would look at every direction. And I know this because indirectly I worked for him at one point. And believe me, he's not a bumbling fool that we all accuse, that many people accuse him of being.
No.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bit of an act going on there as well. Winston Churchill not drinking full brandy sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, he was probably the best of a bad lot, if you're going to put it bluntly.
I think you're about right. You nailed the head. You hammered the nail on the head there.
Yeah, I mean, but then
the best of the worst.
Best of the worst. then we had Cameron, and then I can't remember. So really, when you're looking at it, and then at some point we had Blair. Now Blair had personality.
Yes.
And I know people that have met Blair, and they said, you meet him. One person described him as being, I disagreed with everything the guy said, but what a nice chap. Yeah. And that's what he is. Yeah, he's a nice chap. Call me Tony, or call me Tone, or whatever he said. Yeah. Okay. He's a salesman a bit. He was a lawyer as well. Let's be honest about it. I haven't got it down on lawyers. I know a few, and it's a little bit tongue in cheek here. And he's whatever happened over the WMDs there and everything else, we're still getting to the bottom of. But we know that there are lies told and manipulation, and it might not be him who did the manipulation type. We know what happened there, or we think we do. And then going back further now, possibly the strongest. I mean, let's be honest. Blair wanted to be Thatcher. Cameron wanted to be Blair. Copying Thatcher. Yeah. Cameron does not have personality. Johnson did, is what I'm saying. But they also had intelligence as well. I do not rate Rishi Sunak as having any real intelligence. He could be clever. He's probably a good businessman. I don't know. I don't know where he gets his money from. But he certainly could not relate to me. If he was on this call, this podcast now, we would not. We could probably talk to Blair. We could probably talk to Johnson. We could possibly even talk to what was the other one I was going to say? Yeah, Blair. Truss we'd have a problem with. May would have a problem with. Yeah. If Thatcher was on this call, we probably wouldn't get a word in edgeways anyway, because she'd be but she was a strong leader, and she was probably the most Britain first one we've had for years. I'm not saying wonderful or anything else. Divisive, yes. I never had the opportunity to vote for her or not vote for her because, her tenure was, probably when I started to vote. I can't remember. Yes, I probably did at some point have to vote Tory, or had the opportunity to vote Tory. I can't remember if I voted years ago. I was a bit younger and a bit more left wing at some points in my life.
Sure.
So I swing either way, and I don't hold one way or another. Now, Starmer coming in, are we going to get more of the same? I'm afraid I listen to little things he says. He'll make any promises to get in. I mean, and then it's always the thing.
I believe they all do.
Yeah, of course they do. If anyone comes in, achieves 25% of what they say, they're doing well. I mean, that's what a manifesto is. It's a series of ideas. We live in a democracy. And the idea is that you can kick at the ideas. Normally what happens with Labour come in, the first thing they do for the first year, certainly, is to still keep going with the Conservative ideas. Always happens. Always happens.
Yes, Tony Blair said when he was elected, he says, I'm not going to change anything. Yeah, from Conservative, he said, I'm not going to change anything. It's all going to be the same.
Let's be honest about Tony Blair. He's the best leader that the Conservatives haven't had in recent times.
Labour had.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Get you.
Yeah. He was all but he was a Conservative, really.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always cynical about him. He was even at university he was Labour and CND and everything else like that. But I often thought he saw the opportunity to be left wing because he was a Conservative. Damn, in we go. Anyway, getting back to other points. It does seem strange that there is this desire to antagonise Russia. Now, we can't support what Russia have done in Ukraine. We're giving all the Ukrainians heaps and heaps of support to push the Russians out. Now, if the Russians are very, very strong, which everyone denies, but I think the evidence is kind of suggesting something else there. The Russians will throw bodies at it. They always have done. I mean, that's how they beat the Nazis effectively. I think Putin, from what I understand, Putin is probably still the most popular leader in Europe at the moment, overall. Ask the people.
Yeah. Right.
Russia first. Yeah. Let's put it that way. I mean, he doesn't have any truck with anyone. This guy there, he got bumped off. So the guy that died in the, unfortunately died in the prison, whatever it was, the Gulag. He was probably not a nice guy either, given that some of the things he was involved with. So when we start talking about democracy and politicians, Russia is a different game as well, as is Eastern Europe. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. But to actually now go, start saber rattling against Russia, who are probably not the problem. I know where the problem is, and it's further east than Russia, where the potential problem is going to come from, if they are as strong as they pretend to be. That's China. So we're being told to be put on a war footing with these emergency packs we're all meant to be putting together, or the UK is meant to be putting together. Okay,
it's when the Deputy Prime Minister is suggesting to everybody that you should get a stock of 3 days. You know, it's like, you know, the A bomb's going to drop, and you know, it's 3 days for the clouds to disperse. Let's see what happens.
It's like, make your temporary bomb shelters in the 1980s. I mean, that was only to keep all the bodies together, really.
Yeah, for sure.